Hey folks, happy Friday and welcome to another episode of Plan A Konversations. I have so much to tell you today, so many great announcements. But first, I could not let this week pass without congratulating Peter Georgie. He was on about 2.5, 3 weeks ago. He's a CMO from Equinox. If you have not seen their new ad campaign, it is kick-ass awesome. It is definitely going to be something that is going to be up for awards. So don't take my word for it. Google it. Equinox new ad. It is just out of sight. So congratulations, Peter Georgie. We were talking about that offline in our conversation before he came on the podcast. So really stoked to see that hard work. Last week we had Dr. Craig E. Wright, the numerologist, and I cannot tell you how much great feedback I got from that episode, how much I learned about myself, and also how excited I was for this podcast episode because this is episode 9 of season 9. And this is also episode 145. This is the 145th episode of Plan A Konversations. And the crazy part about that is, if I'm taking Dr. Wright's numerology correctly, 1 plus 4 is 5. 5 plus 5 is 10. And then you have to have that single digit because it's not a master number. It is 1. Destiny number. So I'm calling this podcast episode Destiny Podcast, and I could not think of anybody else to help us celebrate this milestone achievement than one of the people in my life who is the number one manifester. She is a destiny one in herself. She's an innovator, never following a trend. She's a trendsetter. She creates the path, and she's been a dear, close friend of mine for a long period of time. And I cannot wait for you to hear all the successes that she's going to share with us. So without further ado, I want to welcome back to the show the incredible, the inimitable Mikki Bey Crawford.
Oh my gosh, Klay, how can I follow up anything you just named about me? My goodness, thank you for that glowing introduction. I'm so happy to be back.
You know, I'm so glad that you are here, friend. And let me say, first of all, thank you for taking time to speak with me. I know you're traveling, you have a busy schedule, but I could not allow this week to go without first giving you your flowers. Please share with our audience your announcement for your new role and what it is that you're doing before I get into all the nuances of your new opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, I am so excited to be joining the team at Scientis. It is a cosmeceutical company, and we have a product called Suspira that is really meeting the unmet need for hyperpigmentation in melanated skin, right? So this is a passion of mine. I'm a beauty professional, and it's just a product that I think is going to really revolutionize the cosmeceutical market because there hasn't been anything that can meet the needs for hyperpigmentation. So I am going to be leading the sales and marketing team for the whole U.S. I am the U.S. VP and General Manager of Suspira.
So do I scream now or should we scream a little bit later?
Yay!
And sorry for anybody's ears who got some of that audio, but I'm so excited for you. So Mikki Bey, my podcast listeners they come back every week to hear stories of how people got to the positions that they're in life, no matter if they are the person who is a manager at a grocery store, the manager of C-suite, the dancer, the artist. We're all one in this. But what I know for you to be your entire life, actually it's the entire duration of our friendship, is a manifester. Walk our audience through how you got this opportunity because you weren't even looking for this. Is that right?
That is right. You know, I was reflecting on this morning. We've had a lot of PR around my announcement coming to the company, and I'm just so grateful that I had the courage to be authentic on this journey because I am not the likely candidate, right? And I'm from Detroit, so, you know, we consider ourselves to be the underdog anyway. So
anyway.
And the reason why I say I'm not the likely candidate is because I just started in corporate 5 years ago. And I started as a sales rep, and I knew then that I wanted to be a VP. And I told everybody and anybody that would listen to me that that's what I wanted to do. The problem is, you know, there are people who've been there 10 years before me that have gone up that ladder. And I always felt that I was not my skill set was not as valued as those who had
Hmm.
taken the proper steps, right? And so I
Hmm.
was constantly fighting for recognition that my skill set of being an entrepreneur for over 12 years, my entire adult life, I built businesses,
Oof.
successful businesses.
Right.
And getting into corporate, I found that I felt often like I didn't belong, like there was
Hmm.
something that was not like the other.
Hmm.
And for a number of reasons, right? I'm a Black woman. I'm
Right.
working I'm working in the pharmaceutical industry, and it was just, I was a creative, right? Coming from a beauty space, and I just didn't have the traditional trajectory that most people had. And so, as I think about sitting in the chair today of vice president of an entire country over, all of sales and marketing, I'm so grateful that I held on to the vision that I had, even when
Hmm.
people told me, don't tell people you want to be a VP, you're an entry level rep, right?
I remember that.
I
Yeah.
mean, I've had so many people say, don't tell people that's what you want to do. But I believe that's how you manifest. And it doesn't have
Hmm.
to be what looks likely today. It's
Right.
about the vision that I held for myself. And so, no, I didn't go looking for this role. As a matter of fact, I left corporate in August to focus
Hmm.
solely on my coaching business. I do executive coaching and life coaching.
Hmm.
And I was living my life, enjoying my business, doing very well in my business. And I got a message asking me to have a conversation about this role. And it was the most refreshing experience I've had professionally, because
Hmm.
I was not at all fighting to be seen, to be valued, to have my credentials be apples to apples. They came to me
Hmm.
knowing that I was the person that they wanted. And
Wow.
I did not have to bargain my worth. I didn't have to dumb myself down. I didn't have to code switch. I didn't have to make myself anything other than I was. And
Yeah.
I want that for us, right? I want us to
Right.
be chosen, and to our value to be seen without us having to explain every detail. So I'm incredibly honored to be a part of this company, because the vision and the foresight that they had to choose me as the leader without having held the title before, and
Right.
really choosing me based on competencies, not based on track record, right? So
Yeah.
I'm extremely excited about that.
And I love that because we know for sure there are so many different people who advance, namely a lot of white Americans and white people in general, who advance because of nepotism, who their parents was, who their individual, and when you say you didn't hold the position before, what do you think it was about you having a clear vision of who you were as a person, what you wanted, that played into you actually landing this role?
Sure. So I think it comes down to identity. Identity. I
Hmm.
identify as a Black woman, a beauty entrepreneur, a
Hmm.
pharmaceutical professional, a leader, a coach, an entrepreneur. I mean, there's so many different things that I feel are hats that I wear and titles that really give you a good example of who I am and what I'm about. And this company aligns with that. They are a
Right.
company of entrepreneurs. My CEO is an entrepreneur. This is not his first rodeo, right? And so he valued the fact that I've built multiple successful businesses. And so it really is about belonging, right? Because
Hmm.
I've been in several corporate cultures, and I always felt like the odd person out. And
Hmm.
now I realize that the reason I felt that way is because there's a mindset around being an entrepreneur, and there's a spirit about being an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. And if you've never done it, nothing against people who've been in corporate their whole life, it is hard as
Right.
well. But
It
there is
is.
a certain grit about a
Hmm.
person who takes the risk to bet on themselves, whether you're successful or not, right?
Right.
And so I think that that's really what made this opportunity so special, is that I feel a sense of belonging. I feel that it aligns with my passions. I am very passionate about helping Black people.
Hmm.
And this product is a product that is not just for Black people, it's for anyone who suffers from hyperpigmentation. But by and large, most people that have hyperpigmentation issues are going to be, have more melanin in their skin. So
Right.
it is. It just aligns with who I am as a person. And I've always done roles and built businesses around my passions, and this is no
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. And so if I'm listening to this, Mikki Bey, and I hear you, especially if I'm a person of color, someone in the audience may be saying, well, she's a dime a dozen. This is an anomaly. It really doesn't happen for, all of us. What are steps that people can take who feel that they're in the deficit? They may have a mentality of scarcity and don't really feel that they can create the opportunity that they want. How do they get started?
That is an excellent question, Klay. I think you hit the nail on the head in your question, which is they think that they're in a deficit.
Mm,
So the first thing is you have got to change your mindset. You have to
yeah.
know that we live in an abundant universe and that there are infinite solutions to any problem you think you may have. This, as you mentioned, I didn't go searching for this job. It found me. The perfect dream job found me.
Right.
No effort on my part. I was living
Effortless.
my life being happy, on enjoying the journey. The best thing I can
Mm.
tell people is to appreciate where you are right now,
Mm.
no matter if it's where you want to be or not. Appreciate what you're learning in that state, and then tune your tuner to the thing that you want, and
Mm.
be like Kanye about it. Right? You
Okay.
want to be you want to be living in that alternate universe all the time. Like I
Right.
mentioned, I was a VP when I was an entry level sales rep.
That's right. That's right.
Okay? Let that sink in. I was already in the mindset of I'm a VP, y'all just don't know it yet.
That's right. That's
Right?
right.
And I'm gonna wait for y'all to catch up, right?
Hmm.
Because eventually you're going to see what I see for myself. So the first thing for anyone listening is to know who you are. No one
Yeah.
can beat your knowingness. No one can
Hmm.
tell you your vision for yourself and for your life. The one thing that I think has guided me in the right direction time and time again through all of the twists and turns of my career is that I am very in tune with my inner voice. And
Hmm.
when I hear something that says go, I go. When I hear something that says stop, I stop. And it doesn't have to make sense to anyone. But I would say if you are trying to get to a place, wherever that is, know what you know, and move forward with that knowingness, and understand that you are attracting experiences that are according to how you're thinking. So if you're thinking you're in a deficit, everything that's coming your way is all going to give you the experience of being in a deficit, right? But if I
Yeah.
think I'm abundant, I know that everything always works out for me. I know that no matter what twist and turn life throws at me, I'm going to be okay. And that is just inside of the fibers of my being. I'm going to have
Hmm.
a different experience, right? So
Right.
so people who feel that they are starting from behind, I just want to say to them, you're exactly where you're supposed to be, and you're right on time, and there's
Yeah.
no race. There's no race to run. This is your journey, and however long it takes is how long it takes. And when you can accept the goodness that is already there for you, you'll have it.
And when you can accept the goodness that is already there for you, you can have it. I want to
Mhm.
shift gears to the entrepreneurial question because you and I have been talking about this for years. So many people say in corporate America, you become an entrepreneur. That's just kind of it. You cannot switch and come back to this environment. There's holes in your resume, as people would say, because you're not in corporate America. Maybe it's the mother or the father who take the sabbatical due to COVID and whatever financial constraints. Talk to us specifically about that myth that if you were an entrepreneur before, you cannot come back in at the level that you feel that you should be at based off of your background and experience.
So first of all, throw all of that out the window
Out the
because
window.
well, the reason why I say that is because, everyone's path is theirs. And
Hmm.
so, even though there may be someone who couldn't get back into corporate after having a hiatus of being an entrepreneur, that's their story. Don't align with that story if that's not what
Yeah.
you want for your life. So that's the first thing. The second thing is craft your narrative.
Woo.
Make it make it appealing. Like, be able to explain why being an entrepreneur has led you to want this job and what you're going to be able to
Mm.
bring to the job as a result of your experience running your own business. So I think really learning how to package it so that people understand, because one of the things I have learned in corporate is that I had the assumption that people knew what it took to be an entrepreneur. And so I'm thinking I'm
Oh.
coming to the table and you know my life. And what I found is that a lot of people don't. So you need to tell them that, hey, I ran my own P&L. I hired, trained, and recruited talent. I, ran a salon for 6 years. All of the things that would
Hmm.
be attractive. That's customer service. That's financial management. That's people
Mm.
leadership. So be able to start to craft the narrative of who you are, what you bring to the table, and then give them what you want them to think about it versus thinking they're going to be able to make their own conclusion.
And I love that because you even shared with me that it wasn't just about them reaching out to you. You also led them through your own interview process because you wanted to make sure that they were in alignment with what it is that you wanted for yourself. And you spoke earlier about the intuition piece. So many people, Mikki Bey, I don't have to tell you, you're a coach as well. You know that intuition piece is what we deny, we reject, we act like we can't hear it, it's something else. No, it's speaking to you. How
Mm-hmm.
do we get to the point where we can trust that inner voice? Because the decision you just made right now is allowing you to win even greater in life. And that's what I know people really want to do.
One of the sayings I have for my life is that there's always an alternative. And so
Mm.
I turned this job down twice. I turned it down in the first conversation. I turned it down in the initial conversation, and then I turned it down again once I had I think I was on my third conversation with my now CEO. And he said to me, "What is the problem? Why do you not want to do this?" And I just said,
Hmm.
I feel like I've done so much to leave corporate, start my own business again full time. And I just didn't feel like I was ready to give that up. And this
Hmm.
is the difference between this company and any other company I've worked for. He said to me, "Then why give it up?" And I was like, "Excuse me? What do you mean?
Wait,
What do you mean?"
please
And he
say
said,
that.
"Yeah,
Say that again. Say that
he
again.
said
They need
there's
to, they
no
need to hear
need.
you.
Yeah, there's no need to give it up." And I was like, "What?" And before he got there, he was actually trying to find a way to integrate my company into the company. He was like, "Well, maybe you can do
Wow.
coaching for us. Maybe you can, we need coaching." He was really searching for a solution. And that showed me so much. And
Hmm.
that conversation shifted what I thought, because initially I was thinking either or. And what I
Right.
realized when we were talking is that it's not either or, it can be and. It can be
Mm.
and. And not only can it be and, but I can do and well. I can do this. I can be a VP. I can have my coaching business. I can be a mom and a wife and a friend. I can be all these things, which is exactly what my coaching program is about, by the way.
Right.
Um, and so it was an eye opening experience for me, because I think also as Black people we do this to ourselves a lot, where we
Hmm.
take ourselves out of something because we don't see how it can be the package of what
That's
we were
right.
thinking we wanted. And you
Right.
are actually the best example of the opposite of that, because you always go in asking for what you know you are worth. You always go in asking for exactly what you want. And
Mm.
so let that be a lesson. Like, it didn't occur to me to
Mm.
say, is it possible that I can do both? Like, it didn't occur because it had been so
Wow.
ingrained in me in every other corporate role I've ever had. It's always been a problem for me to be an entrepreneur. And at this
Right.
company, it's just not a thing. I mean, he's literally an entrepreneur, right? Like that's
Right.
the company. And so being in an environment that not only tolerates me being an entrepreneur, they embrace me being an
Embrace.
entrepreneur. And I am in
Mm.
this role because of what I have proven as an entrepreneur. And so, it really is an abundance mindset, right? And it's
Yeah.
believing that you can have all the things, and however that comes and however that package shows up. I always tell my clients, your job is to worry about the what, not the how.
Mm.
Your job is to define what it is you want, how you want to feel, the desires of your heart, and you release
Mm.
that to the universe. You don't worry about how it comes to pass. I was not sitting in my house thinking, dang, I wish I was a VP. I was not sitting there thinking that. But I had held the energy of being a VP for so long. At the
Yeah.
point where I let it go, it came right to my inbox.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a really good point. Holding the vision without stifling and strangling the vision. Help us understand that holding, because so many people, what we hear is surrender to it, be in flow, and I don't think people really understand what that means on a base bottom definition.
You know what? I am so glad you asked that. So, this was an easy thing for me to hold without resistance because it was just, I knew it was going to happen. I just didn't know the timing. I didn't even care about the timing because, from everyone else's estimation, they told me it was going to take me 20 years. It took me 5,
I remember.
right? So,
Yeah.
literally, everyone was like, I mean, that's great that you want to be a VP, but yeah, it's going to take this amount of
Right.
time. And I never allowed that to sink into my spirit. I was like, okay, I'm going to come in, I'm going to do my job, I'm going to learn everything I possibly can at every level. I'm going to network, I'm going to do what I need to do to gain the competencies that I need for the role that I want. And that's what I focused on. And
Yeah.
so for me, there was little resistance around that because it was so unfathomable to most people in my life that it was really easy for me to just be like, okay, that's fine. I'm gonna just tuck it in here. I didn't obsess about it. It was just a knowing. I just knew that this is what was going to happen for me. And quite honestly, this is a pit stop. I'm a CEO,
Right.
and my CEO knows it.
Come on.
So I mean,
Come
I am,
on.
as an entrepreneur, I've been a CEO, for 12 years. And so being a VP is great. And I think the reason that this means so much to me is because it is that validation, right? It's the validation
Mm.
of the manifestation, that
Hmm.
it's the vision that I held on to without any evidence that it was going to come to pass in any
Right.
real amount of time, right? Or in a time frame that seems reasonable. And then I think too, as an entrepreneur, you're your own benchmark. So I am judged against myself day in and day out, and I'm gonna be great for me every single day. But it is. I think this means so much to me because my whole corporate experience, there has been almost a devaluing of the very thing that put me into the seat that I'm in. And so it
Yeah.
feels so validating just to know that, like,
Mm.
you can show up and be a Black woman with natural hair, with locks, speak with a Detroit accent. You can not have a corporate career track record, and you
Mm.
can still end up right where you're supposed to be because you are supposed to be there. No one can take what's for me. No matter
Yeah.
how hard you try, if it's for me, it's for me. Just like whatever is for you is for you. So
Yeah.
I'm so incredibly thankful, for this coming upon my path because it really is a true manifestation in the best sense of the word, which is surrender.
Yeah, which is surrender. Thank you so much for answering that question, because I think so many people get confused. And you talked a little bit earlier about knowing for yourself, but also knowing for you. So many people send DMs and different client conversations in general is specifically about having a spouse, a partner, husband, wife, aunt, mother, multi-generational home, whatever the case may be, and you're living amongst this community, and you're the only one who feels that the dream you have for yourself, you actually can accomplish. What do you say
Hmm.
to people who are in communities where every day they feel stifled by people with limited visions for what they want for themselves? How do we deal or cope with that?
It's the rose that grew from concrete, right? Like we're from
Mm.
Detroit and we are from the city of Detroit.
Yeah, right.
And so I don't take it lightly that I grew up. I can't claim to be underprivileged because I was not, but I grew up in the hood. So even though I went to private schools, my day to day was in the inner city of Detroit. And so I would say, even if there are not role models or examples for you to look to on your street or in your family, it costs nothing to dream. It costs
Mm.
nothing it costs nothing to be um, in your mind with your
Mm.
desires. And
Hmm.
so it is imperative that when you're in an environment that is not conducive to your growth, that you develop a growth mindset for yourself and that you do everything that you can to get yourself out of that environment, be that education, sports, music, whatever it is that you have a passion about, know that there's a path for you
Hmm.
and you don't have to fall victim to your circumstances. All of us have had adversity. I could
Right.
I could tell you some things that would probably blow the hat off of your head that are in
Yeah.
my background, but it is about being resilient and it's about knowing that you may have been born into a situation that's less than ideal, but you don't have to stay there. And you can search and find. You have the internet. I mean, I can't even imagine kids now these days.
Right.
Like they have so much at their fingertips. You have YouTube. You can learn a whole skill, a language. I mean, there's literally the world is open to you. So I would
Yeah.
say be about the business of training your mind to be great in whatever area that is and seek out the tools and the resources and know that because you want it, the universe has already answered you and it is yours and all the cooperative components are going to be assembled for you to do what you need to do. People, resources, money, whatever it is, will come upon your path simply because you have set that intention of what you want. So I think it's just about being clear about what you want to be and who you are and not letting anything in your environment sway you.
Yeah. And, Mickey Bay, you just talked about that path of intention. And I say all the time that when we are aspiring to like a God destiny moment or a manifestation moment, it's us bringing every particle of our life, every past experience, whether, it was a mistake or whatever people feel that it was, but bringing all of those things into the moment that is to come. What has your experience been like with being able to step over the humps of things that have been, an area of discontent, an area that has been discouraging? How have you brought those things with you to support who you are today?
I'm laughing in my mind because I can hear my husband saying that I'm negatively motivated, meaning he says I love for someone to tell me I can't do something, which which is probably true, but it's not that I'm negatively motivated. It's that again, you can't tell me what I can do. It's that simple, right? I know what I can do because it's on the inside of me. And anytime I have come up against adversity or something that looked like it might take me out. I mean, after I closed Mikki Bey Eyelash Extensions, for the most part, I fell off the earth. Like I went from being a public figure to
Yeah.
moving completely out of state, closing my salon, and I was silent. Like I barely posted on social media, and people would really only know what was going on with me if you were a close friend. I was not a very public person. And a lot of people saw that as a defeat. They saw it as, oh, well, she doesn't have her salon anymore. She's not Mikki Bey, then who is she? But guess what? I'm going to be who I am regardless of any title, regardless of any business I own, because that's not who I am, it's what I do. Who I am is very solid. Who I am is Michaela Bay. That's who I am. And that's my government name for those of you who don't know. But that's who I am. And so when I lay my head down at night, I can rest very easy because I know that whatever path I'm on, even if I'm seeing something that is not what I had planned for myself, I know it's ultimately leading me in the right direction, right? And so I've had enough experiences in my life to know that everything doesn't need to go to plan. This was not a part of my plan as far as like going back into corporate this soon after coming out. It took everything I had in my body to get out and then to go right back in. That was not the plan. But look at how the stars aligned, right?
Seriously.
So since the stars aligned, who am I to tell the stars I don't want you? You know what I mean? It was, and so that's what I would say to people is, look at everything as a learning, and look at all of the adversities, the stumbles, the roadblocks, the potholes as this is getting me to where I need to be. And I'm appreciative of even the pothole, right? Because there's something to be gained from being in this pothole. It's going to make me really appreciate the smooth road when I get out of this.
Yeah. And, my next question is specifically addressed for Black women, because you spoke earlier about all these different things and these different silos that people have put Black people in, whether in corporate entrepreneurs, but specifically Black women. I hear so much from clientele and different listeners of the podcast about I can't have it all. I need to either be the wife at home, I need to be the PTA mom, I need to be the corporate person. It's just really hard for me to step into a space where I can have all these different things. You talked about a little bit earlier, but specifically, what is your message to other Black women who are espousing to have some of these things you've manifested?
So the name of my coaching program is Bliss by Design. And I named it Bliss by Design because it really is about finding what your bliss is. And for me, bliss is being able to do all the things that make me happy, right? Like there is this narrative that you can't have a family and be a career person. I am in LA. I live in Atlanta. I'm going to be on a 10-day business trip. I have a 2.5-year-old at home. And people would say, oh, cluster pearls, you leaving your baby home for 10 days? Yes. You know why? Because he has a daddy
Hmm.
who's just like if I was at home for 10 days and he was away, right?
Hmm.
So, exactly. Okay. So here's the thing. I think that, again, we have to stop telling ourselves what we can have. You can
Hmm.
have, in a limited lack scarcity mindset type of way. If you're going to tell yourself what you have, tell yourself on the abundance side, right? Tell yourself
Okay.
you can have it all. Tell yourself you can have your heart's desire. And that's really what I work with my clients to tell them is that you can have it all, but it might be about timing.
Hmm.
It also might be about creating the structure to withhold it. The
Hmm.
first thing, and because you're one of my best friends and we've talked about it, the first thing I thought when I really started considering this role is how will this affect my family? My husband is going to have to be primary caregiver for my son, whereas we were really 50-50 in the household with him, with my 2-year-old. And now he's going to be working from home and also having to care for a young child. What does that look like? Hired a nanny. Perfect. Okay. Now that's taken care of. What are the other things that I can outsource so I can make his life easier? Okay. Factor 75. Go ahead and order the meals to the house. Cleaning lady on every 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Babysitter on deck. These are the things that I immediately jumped into doing, is setting up the structure for me to be able to thrive. because I
Woo.
can't thrive if my
Hmm.
husband's upset and burnt out, my baby is mad and not doing well and not cared for, and my house is a wreck when I get home. None of that leads to me being successful in doing what I want to do. So, all that to say, you can have exactly what you accept you can have,
Ooh.
right? What you feel worthy of having is what you can have.
Yeah.
And it really comes down to that. And I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and I told her, and she wants to be an A-list celebrity actress. And I said, well, it's really simple. You'll be an A-list actress when you can accept that you are an A-list actress. There's a worthiness issue somewhere in there that's telling you you're not worthy of being an A-list actress, because you would be. Because if you were
Right.
accepting it, if you were vibrationally aligned to it, you would draw it into you, and you
Yeah.
would be that you want to be, right? And so
Right.
the same is true for anything. It's not just about occupations. If I want to be happy, the best thing for me to do is to focus on vibrating at that level to attract more things that will make me happy, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just about the material, it's not just about the titles and all of that. All that's well and good, but if you're a wreck on the inside after obtaining all of that, it's not going to matter.
Yeah. Before I let you go, there's two more things I have to talk to you about because
Yes,
you talked about vibrating. Our audience does not know because the last time you were here on our podcast in first early seasons, you actually vibrated and attract your husband to you, and you had this whole dope elope. Walk our audience through that experience as well and talk to us about that vibration of love because it's the same as it
it
is
is
for
the
these other
same.
things, but we have to get this in before you go.
Okay, perfect. So here is the Cliff Notes version of that. I was single for 10 years in LA working on my business, and I looked up and realized, wait, I didn't date my whole 20s. Now I'm in my early 30s,
You did not,
and
Mikki Bey. You did not.
I was focused. I was focused. I had tunnel vision, and I decided that I really wanted to be married and I really wanted a family. And so I did what any good Christian girl would do. I went on a spiritual fast, and I said, you know what? I'm giving up all men. I don't want to talk to any men. I don't want to text any men. I just want to go on this fast. It was Lent at that time, so I gave up dating for Lent. And I didn't give it up for a husband. I really wanted to strengthen my relationship with God because I just wanted to I wanted to learn how to be secure without the man. And I felt that secure feeling would come from strengthening my relationship with God. And so I worked on that. And so 40 days, all I did was pray, fast, read my Bible, affirm what it is that I want. I was in the shower literally speaking the life that I want. And one day I was in the shower and I felt this overwhelming feeling of romantic love come over me. And I immediately knew
What
that
is that? What does that mean? What does that mean?
I could feel the aura of the love, like
Oh,
inside of my body. Like I felt loved, like someone was loving me. It's a weird thing to explain, but this is how I felt. And so I'm in the shower, and immediately I knew my husband was nearby. I didn't know if I knew him. I didn't know how he was going to find me, but I knew his energy was locked into mine. I knew that we were feeling each other in that moment. And so that gave me a lot of peace. And I just said, God, if it happens when I'm 55, it happens when I'm 55. I know I'm a wife. I know
right.
I'm a wife. So again, that knowingness, right? Like I just walked in that and I let it go. And I resolved to really wait on God's timing for me. And at the end of my fast, which was Easter Sunday, I logged on OkCupid at midnight, right when the fast was over. And my now husband was the first profile I saw. I didn't say anything to him. I just looked at his profile and I went to sleep. He sent
Hmm.
me a message the next day. Beautiful message. It was not like, what's up, beautiful? It was like a
Right.
really, really nice message. And then the next day, my mother died. Yeah. So, needless to say, I was not thinking about this man that I just met. I was devastated that my mother had passed away, and went home to deal with that. And then I got home about 7 days later, And at that point, he was the only person that didn't know my mom had died. And so I just called him and we spoke, and we had one conversation that lasted 4 hours. He was actually moving to Philadelphia from LA that day. And so he was like, well, I would love to meet you, but I don't really want to do the long distance thing. And I was like, it's fine. If it's nothing, it's nothing. If it's something, it's something. Let's just do breakfast. So he was like, okay. So we go to breakfast, have a great conversation at breakfast. I did tell him at breakfast, that my mother had passed a week before, and we got into like this really deep conversation that typically on a first date, you're not talking about these things. So he starts
Right.
asking me like, well, do you want kids? Do you want to be married? And like all these things. I answered all the questions. And at the end of me answering the questions, he said, okay, will you marry me? And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, will you marry me? And I said no because I want a better proposal. And he was like, okay, fine. So we finish our pancakes. We go outside, and it's LA. It's on a Sunday, and there's a million people waiting to get into the brunch place. And he gets down on one knee with a ring he literally made out of the paper packets of sugar on the table. And it was beautiful, by the way, because my husband's an artist.
Wow.
And I didn't even see him doing it, but he made this paper ring, and he gets down on one knee, calls me by my whole government name, and asked me to marry him again. And I said yes. And we never looked back. And it was a whirlwind situation. And by the way, we always tell people it worked for us. It ain't going to work for nobody else. So don't do this. Don't get engaged on your first date. Okay. But it was such a blessing because for me, like I really needed that. And I felt like my mother ushered him into me, because if you know my husband, he's a Virgo. Like he is very planned by the book. He is not a spontaneous person, but he told me that he felt for the first time the Holy Spirit moved him and said to him, if you don't ask her to marry you right now, you're going to lose her.
Wow.
And also my husband's not very religious. So all of this is kind of just like, again, cooperative components aligning for my desire for the things that I wanted. And we got married 90 days later. We've been married for 6 years. We have a 2.5-year-old. We have 19-year-old twins.
Yeah. And all of this, what I'm hearing you say more than anything, and this is going to be the title of the podcast, it can be and. There's so much for all of us that if we truly hunker down and get very still and quiet and ask ourselves, what is it that I truly desire for myself? And without, you keep saying this over and over again, Mikki Bey, without that resistance of holding on and then trusting that the next step and the next step and the next step and the next step will present itself as long as you get started.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I have never known where I was going to end up. I didn't know I was going to end up here. I didn't know I was going to become a makeup artist, that I was going to own a lash salon, that I was going to be on Shark Tank. I didn't know I was going to meet my husband and marry him in 90 days. None of that was the plan. I was focused on following the good feeling. That's it. It felt good to do makeup. I did makeup. It felt good to do lashes. I did lashes. So if anything, I was following the good feeling and the next good feeling and the next good feeling and the next good feeling, which ultimately keeps leading me to more deliciousness in my life. It keeps leading me to the desires that I truly hold in my heart, that my inner being is already privy to, already knows what I want. So as long as I am, again, I'm following the good feeling on the path of more and more and more and more and more, because I'm attracting this to myself, because all I'm doing is worried about being happy. And one little thing about that, people get real mad when you're a happy person. Let me just say this, because and the reason why I say that is because I get a lot of criticism for the choices I make in my life. I've lived in 8 states. This is probably my 5th career. I got married quickly. The list goes on and on, right? So because I am a non-traditional woman in every sense of the word, I get a lot of criticism. And what I tell people is, I hope that there's something in your life that you feel so passionately about that if you don't do it, you'll die. Because that's how I felt. That's how I felt about makeup artistry and the beauty industry. I felt like I don't care if I ever make money at this, because I love it that much. If I'm going to be poor and sleeping on couches, it's what it's going to be. Here's the beautiful thing about that. You'll never be poor and sleeping on couches when you are doing the thing that you love for the sake of doing it and not for anything else. Why? Because you are attracting more and more and more of the good feeling. Every time I picked up a makeup brush, I got a euphoric feeling. So I'm vibrating euphoria, right? Which is why, and by the way, it sounds like it's very like, oh, manifested this, manifested that, manifested that. By the time you manifest the thing, the manifestation is over. So the journey is really the sweet spot. The anticipation is really the sweet spot. It feels great to be on Shark Tank, right? But Shark Tank was 6 years ago. It's over. Yeah, like it's awesome. It's something I did, but it doesn't get me high anymore. It is wonderful to be a VP. Great. But guess what? A year from now, I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm a VP. Like it's always it's the new house syndrome, right? Like when you get your new house, you're so excited. And then a year, 2 years from now, you're now thinking, I think I need a bigger house. When this house was huge to you before, right? So it's the same type of thing. You can't live for the thoughts turning to things in the manifestation point. You have to live for all of the beautiful things that happen along the journey, including getting fired, including the setbacks, including, the downtime, including the singleness season, because guess what? Had I got married anytime before 32, I'm positive I would have been divorced because I wasn't ready. I was not ready, right? Had I not gotten fired from being a makeup artist with a celebrity, I would have never started Mikki Bey eyelash extensions, right? Had my mother not died, I would have still been probably doing eyelashes right now. And I wouldn't have probably met my husband and ended up getting into pharmaceuticals and doing the whole thing. So don't shy away from the dark points, right? Don't shy away from the moments of darkness because there's so much to be gained in the darkness. There's so much to be gained from grief, right? I've learned so much through my grief of my mother up to and including, and I have to say this, I truly feel that my mother put this job on my path, that she, from the other realm, really orchestrated this for me because this was really her dream for me. So I get very
Really?
emotional. Yes, I get very emotional about it because and a good friend of mine said to me yesterday, but you are so accomplished. Like, why does this mean so much to you? And I said, I think it means so much to me because I know this is what my mother wanted for me. Like, I know this is what she wanted for me. And to ultimately end up in a place where we fought tooth and nail. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. She wanted me to go corporate. She wanted me to climb the ranks and be an executive. And I just didn't see myself fitting into that mold. And to find a place where I get to still be myself, I get to stretch myself and learn new things and develop more skills and competencies and learn from brilliant people every single day, lead a team of absolutely hungry, amazing salespeople, work with a marketing team that has chosen a Black woman to be the face of our product. I mean, like, it just doesn't get better than this. And it is, I'm very clear that it was not my doing. I'm very clear on that. It's no way I could have put this together for myself. There has to be universal support, ancestral support involved because it is too perfect, right?
Yeah. And the theologian John Calvin talks about free will. There's a bit of us having free will, but there's also an alignment. And he didn't use those words back in the day, but alignment with our co creator. And before I go, I would be a bad friend and not a good coach if I did not ask you, what are you grounded in spiritually? Like, what's your faith tradition? Because
Yeah.
I think that's important to round out this conversation for our listeners, especially.
So I live by universal principles. I grew up Baptist. right? And I would say I'm still Christian, non-denominational, if anything, but much more spiritual than religious.
Mhm.
I study how the universe works. I study energy. I'm very sensitive to energy. And I think that is really what grounds me. My understanding that I am the same as source energy, that source energy is me, that I'm a spiritual being who is having a physical experience. And by the way, the reason we get to manifest is because it's our birthright as a human. When you are returned to spiritual, there's no need to turn thoughts into things. You can't feel the physical things. So manifestation is truly a human experience. And that's what grounds me. I love living. I love my life. I love that I get to impact people on a daily basis, whether it's through coaching or through my job. Or I got a message yesterday that said, I want you to know little girls are looking up to you. Nothing means more to me than that.
Wow.
Nothing. Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. Because I have so many mentors that, I have sent LinkedIn messages to cold, like, I'm impressed with you. I just want to know everything about you. And so I know what it feels like to look at someone and think, wow, I want to be there one day. And to think that someone is having that thought about me right now is absolutely amazing. And I don't take that lightly at all.
Listen, Mikki Bey, we have been to the water. We've been to the river. We've gone up to the C-suite. We have been through the halls of grief. We went to seminary. We have gone everywhere. And I cannot say and I cannot stress this enough. And literally, I just want to give you your flowers. You deserve every moment of this because not only have you manifested it, but at the core of who you are is nothing but light and spirit and a generous soul. And so,
Thank
as one of
you.
your friends, I am so proud of you. Your success is my success. It's every success of every person who lives in this realm. Every little black boy, little black girl, white boy, Asian, whatever the case may be. So many people are looking up to you and saying, "I want to grow up and do that." And for that, I just have to say, you are literally a Plan A all-star, and I'm so grateful
Thank
that you would come
you.
on and share this with us because somebody needs to hear this right now.
Klay, that means the world to me, and I'm so proud to be your 145th episode, right?
Yeah.
Just like I said, watching you and your journey has been such an inspiration to me, and you know how I feel about you, just as your commitment and your tenacity and all the good that you're doing in the world through not just this medium, several other things that you have going on. So thank you for all that you do, sir.
Yes. And so, listen, I know there's going to be some folks who want to hire you for your coaching services, as well as people who want to know about this product, because I'm going to ask you about
Yeah.
these products later on, because the
Yes.
hyperpigmentation is the thing, especially for people of color. Give us a walkthrough where we can learn all that information about you and also your new role.
Yeah, so you can find me online at Get Mikki Bey on Instagram and all platforms. And then my website is also Get Mikki Bey. And if you're looking for me on LinkedIn, just Mikki Bey Crawford. You can find me on LinkedIn there. The company is Scientis. And then the product is called Suspira. So Suspira, you can go to suspira.com, which is Cyspera. And you can find out all about our products.
All right, listen, folks, you heard it here. Thank you so much for being on this ride with me for 145 episodes. I could not think of anybody else to bring this podcast home other than the Mikki Bey Crawford. Of course, I have all of her information in the show notes. You can learn more about me by visiting clayswilliams.com. And I'm on all of your favorite social media by the handle of @Plan A with Klay. That's @Plan A with Klay, folks. Remember that Klay is with a K. Thanks for listening. Look forward to seeing you in our very next episode of Plan A Konversations. Peace, folks. Have a great weekend.